for no one. No one but me.
We dance to the drums of war, and all our hearts beat as one.
A lot of people are complaining about the meta, and rightfully so. It's very polarized, making it feel a little bit more like a game of roulette than a card game. You're just hoping to match against a deck, which is a good matchup, otherwise you lose. The main problem is not a matter of skill right now, but it's basically a game of rock, paper, scissors. Because of certain decks like Irelia, Azir or Nasus Thresh for example. There's not really much choice what you can do. You either play those decks, or you play some decks that counter these decks, leading to a very toxic meta. In patch 2.9 we're actually due some balance changes, and this video is going to be look at what we can expect and hopefully sort out these decks and make the game a little bit less toxic. This is expected balance changes patch 2.9. This video has been done in collaboration with BomberTV. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on the bell notifications too. So let's dive in. I predict there'll be a nerf to Irelia and lead and follow by changing Flawless Duet from 1 mana to 2. This change alone will probably solve most of the issues that we're currently seeing with Azir Irelia. The reason why I think this change is necessary is for several reasons. 3 out of 4 decks with Iona are only playing Irelia and lead and follow, sitting at around 53% win rate in high level play, so Masters, Diamond and Platinum tiers. Basically meaning that most of Iona is playing this very specific archetype. While it's nice to have Iona back in the meta, it's not really been around since beta, the deck is simply meta defining, it's too meta defining. You either play a burn deck, which can sometimes outpace this crazy aggro deck, or you lose most of the time unless you're basically playing a counter deck, meaning the whole meta is revolving around a very specific deck, which is not how a card game should work. Increasing the cost of Flawless Duet will hit 2 cards in its archetype, Irelia mainly, but also lead and follow, significantly slowing down the crazy amount of tax that this deck can get for free. For example, you won't be able to go Dancing Droplet 1 mana, into Empress Diaz 2 mana, into Irelia 3 mana, with a Flawless Duet for an extra 1 mana on top of that anymore. This alone is a huge deal, meaning that you'll need to wait 1 extra turn to start doing your crazy attacks, and later on this increased cost will decrease your chances of doing some mad combos with other cards like Inspiring Marshal for example. So I'm really hoping this subtle change would make the deck a bit more fair and allow some other decks to come through. I predict Dunekeeper will have its power nerfed from 2 to 1. This had to happen sooner or later. I understand each region has to have some staple cards which are obviously going to be a little bit stronger than others, but making a crazy aggressive 1-drop a staple card of Shurima doesn't seem to be really thematic to the region. Whilst I get that being aggressive is part of the nature of Shurima, it's only a thing that we kind of see of Shurima currently. There's no other strategies in the region that are showing, and this region definitely has a lot more to offer than being aggro, because that's basically what defines Noxus. Dunekeeper is also an auto-include in Azir Irelia, Thresh Nasus, and Noxus Shurima aggro, all 3 of which are either S tier decks or very close to that right now, which is a huge hint that this card definitely needs a nerf. With this change, we're mainly decreasing the ability for the card to trade efficiently in the early game, whilst kind of keeping some of its strengths, i.e. that it can deal a lot of damage as a first drop and summons wide with just 1 action. I predict the second leveled up card of Azir will be nerfed from when you summon an ally give us both 1 damage to when you summon an ally give the ally 1 damage. Bomber really thought a long time about this nerf, and I think he went with the right choice in the end. Shurima is basically dominating the meta and Azir is a huge culprit of this scenario. I didn't want to change his level up requirement as I feel this would damage Azir too much and would hurt in particular mono Shurima decks which are still struggling. The stat line's not really a problem, even though I could see making him a 1/4, and whilst the summon of an attack soldier is the kind of most problematic part at the moment, it's too kind of characteristic of him and I wouldn't want to change that for design reasons, otherwise all cards would be too similar and it'd be a very boring game. Another alternative change could be when you summon an ally, give me 1 damage, basically giving the extra damage to Azir when you summon a new card, but I didn't think this fit in line too much with his kind of theme as being an emperor and boosting all these people a bit like kind of the lore-wise, but I could see why people could see this other way around where maybe you see like Azir's soldiers serving him and therefore his power increasing. I don't know, let me know what you think in the comments, what you prefer both kind of design-wise and kind of meta-wise. This change won't be really a huge nerf to him, but it will just tone down a little bit in decks that can already go too wide and at least remove the possibility of Azir becoming too powerful himself. Just a subtle change, so not completely kill the card. I believe Draven will be nerfed so he does not generate an axe on play anymore. Draven is seeing a lot of viability both in discard aggro, Ezreal Draven, as well as being a viable option to include in many aggressive decks featuring Nasus. Considering this is also one of the older archetypes, you've also got Decisive Targon, Elise Burn, you kind of get the picture here, he's absolutely everywhere. While it's good that a champion is stable in his region, it shouldn't be as good as he actually is. Removing the axe on play removes just a tiny bit of consistency in the most problematic decks that we're seeing at the moment, Ezreal Draven, discard aggro, where he's basically just an axe generator that usually gets removed for one reason or another, but later on you get the advantage for when the axe is generated either by discarding it to draw and gain value, or simply just to discard something to generate tempo. So again, removing the axe on play means that he still at least has to enter combat to start generating the value, but we want to keep his stat lines the same and his keywords the same, as I don't feel this is the problem. It's very much the value that all his axes can kind of create with him. I predict that Zoe is going to be nerfed, and I believe that her Supercool Starchart should cost 3 instead of 2. Zoe is a powerhouse of value. Not only is she a cheap, elusive body that can deal easy damage, but she's also a great long-term threat that can win you the game if she levels up. If this wasn't enough, she also generates an insane amount of value for a relatively cheap cost by being able to invoke cards which are obviously better by design. So the nerf to her spell is quite a significant one, which may seem very harsh, but it's basically needed to tone down what is an insanely good champion. I feel this change will keep her competitive, but marginally slow down the rate that value can be generated, so just find that kind of fine balance. I predict that Deadbloom Wonder will have its health buffed from 2 to 3. This change would allow Deep to stabilise more effectively against aggro decks, which is one of the biggest problems right now. Maybe this will be enough to bring Deep decks back, who knows. Also, this card could start even seeing play outside of Deep, for example in control decks, in place of cards like Kindly Dunekeeper. What do you guys think? I predict Out of the Way will have its mana change from 5 to 3, and the card's effect will be removed so it no longer draws one card. Out of the Way was never in a great spot, and it requires you to build your whole deck around it just to be worthwhile, so you still need to have one in your opener, and even if you do, you still lose to aggressive strategies as it's simply too slow. I personally find it one of the most unique cards in the game. I'd love it to shine a little bit more. Reducing its cost to 3 is a big deal as it allows you to cast it on the second turn and start abusing it from turn 3, and the removal of the draw 1 will help cap its value enough to keep it balanced. Heimerdinger, I think, is have its mana change from 5 to 4, and his leveled up form will have its effect removed to no longer grant 1/1 and instead add Tech Ally Share all key words. Heimerdinger is in a very bad spot after they butchered him quite a few patches ago, and the game has changed a lot since then. His leveled up cards always felt a little bit insignificant, and I feel it's a good time to kind of spice things up and bring him back to the meta. It could also be worth making Victor and his followers into tech cards, but I feel this could be a very huge change, which I guess I wouldn't want to commit to at this stage, even though I could definitely see Riot wanting to try something like this in the future. It's definitely the types of changes that the game needs to stay exciting and dynamic. And there we go guys, what do you think to these predictions? I personally think Bomber has come up with some fantastic nerfs to address the shurima problems in this video, and can't wait to come up with some exciting reworks as well to inject the much needed energy into the game, and some decks that desperately need some love. What cards do you think need buffed and nerfed in this upcoming patch? I would love to hear in the comments. Up next is Top 10 Decks patch 2.9, taking a look at the best decks after the latest set of balance changes. This analysis is done by BomberTV, a Masters tier player who does gameplays at Masters tier level and deck guides like this one. The link to his YouTube and Twitch channel is in the pinned comment or in the card above. I've recently set up an Instagram account, @LoreGuides, and I'll be doing a giveaway shortly. Please follow this account for see posts about new videos, and will be in a chance of winning this giveaway. Please remember to like and subscribe, and turn on bell notifications too. See you next time guys.